They buried me while I was still breathing. Not literally, of course. There was no coffin lowered into the ground with me clawing at the lid. But standing in my tiny Berlin apartment that gray morning, watching my own funeral on a stranger's phone, I realized that being erased while alive might be worse than any physical death. The coffee cup slipped from my fingers. Brown liquid spread across the hardwood floor, but I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. On the screen, street. Albin's cathedral gleamed with its characteristic ostentatious beauty, packed with people who had apparently come to mourn me. My father stood at the podium, his silver hair perfectly coiffed, reading from a prepared statement with trembling hands that I knew were nothing but theater. His voice crackled through the phone's tiny speaker. Conbay Billy. Though she made mistakes, we always loved her. We did everything we could. My mother cut him off with a theatrical sob, dabbing at dry eyes with a lace handkerchief. A tragic accident, she wailed. In a foreign land, so far from home, our baby's soul can finally rest now. I wanted to scream. Instead, I sank to the floor, my knees hitting the spilled coffee. The phone was still playing. I couldn't look away. There it was, my coffin. Closed, because there was nothing inside it. Next to it stood an enlarged photograph of me from 3 years ago, back when I still smiled like I believed the world was fair. I was 27 years old, very much alive, and watching my own memorial service from 3,000 miles away. Standing beside my parents with her head bowed in perfect imitation of grief was Elena. My sister. My beautiful, charming, sociopathic sister. She wore black Chanel, her blonde hair swept into an elegant chignon, but I knew her too well. Even through the grainy video, I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her eyes darted around the room. Not grief, anxiety, the fear of being caught. They had erased me, completely. Efficiently, successfully. I needed to remember when everything fell apart. 3 years ago, I had been different, naive. The Decois family was old money, the kind that came with expectations and an unshakable belief in our own importance. My father ran a commercial real estate empire. My mother sat on charity boards and hosted fundraisers that made the society pages. I had always been the responsible one, the eldest daughter who got good grades, worked in the family business. I wasn't flashy like Elena. I didn't have her effortless charm. But I was solid, dependable. Elena was 2 years younger but somehow always ahead. She had the kind of beauty that opened doors. Our parents adored her. When she asked for something, they gave it. When I asked for something, I had to justify it. The cracks started showing slowly. Elena spent money freely, but about 4 years ago, it got worse. Designer bags appeared weekly, trips to Paris and Milan, a new Mercedes. She borrowed from friends and never paid them back. I noticed because I worked in the family office, handling accounts and reviewing contracts. One afternoon, I was reviewing expense reports, when something caught my eye. A wire transfer for $50,000, authorized with my father's signature, going to an account I didn't recognize. I investigated. The account belonged to Elena. The signature was forged. She had been doing it for over a year. The total came to nearly $300,000. I went to her apartment that night, told her what I found, showed her the evidence. Explained that she needed to return the money and confess before I had to report it. She laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, Billy, always so dramatic. It's family money. I'm family. What's the difference? The difference is it's not yours, I said. The difference is you forged documents. The difference is this is illegal. She smiled. That bright, beautiful smile. We'll see how that works out for you. I went to my parents the next morning, sat them down in the study, showed them the transfers, the forged signatures, the timeline of theft. I explained it clearly, professionally. My mother's face went hard. Stop this, Billy. Your sister would never do such a thing. You're jealous. My father snatched the folder from my hands. His face was red. You dare to come in here and accuse your sister? You dare to bring shame on this family with these lies? They're not lies, I said. The evidence is right there. He threw the folder across the room, papers scattered. Get out. I don't want to hear another word. You should be ashamed. Behind them, the study door opened. Elena stood there, and I saw the smile. She had been listening, had probably warned them ahead of time. Bye-bye, she mouthed silently. They cut me off immediately. My apartment was in a family-owned building. I had a week to vacate. My credit cards were canceled. My position at the company was terminated. My mother sent me a single text. You made your choice. Live with it. I was 24 years old with some savings but limited work experience. I struggled. Waited tables, worked retail, moved to a studio in a bad neighborhood. After a year of barely surviving, I applied for jobs abroad. Got hired as an administrative assistant in Berlin. I spent 2 years building a quiet life, learning German badly, making a few friends. The anger faded into a dull ache. I thought about my family less and less. Until that morning. Until the video. I checked online. My social media accounts were memorialized. My LinkedIn showed deceased. There were even news articles. Tragic accident claims young American in Germany. Someone had filed a death certificate. Someone had created an entire false narrative of my death, complete with details about a vehicle collision. They hadn't just disowned me, they had killed me off. Legally, officially, thoroughly. My phone rang. Unknown number. Sam. My cousin, barely out of his teens when I left. Billy? Is this really you? Sam. I breathed. Oh my God, Sam. I saw the video, he whispered. But I could have sworn I saw you in a travel blogger's video from Berlin. Are you actually alive? I'm alive. What the hell is happening? They said you died 6 months ago. There was a memorial service. They buried an empty coffin. His voice dropped. Your dad transferred your entire trust fund to Elena 3 weeks after the funeral. And Elena just married this super rich guy. The wedding was insane. My trust fund, my grandmother had set it up. It would have been worth close to $2 million by now. They didn't just erase me. They profited from it. Sam, I need your help, I said. I need you to send me everything you can find. Photos, documents, anything. Can you do that without anyone knowing? Over the next week, Sam became my eyes and ears. He sent me photos from Instagram, financial documents he found. My Aunt Rachel had been keeping files too. The death certificate was a forgery, but a good one. The trust transfer had been expedited through probate court, with my parents as executors. They had submitted a will they claimed I had left. I had never written a will. Elena's wedding had taken place 2 months ago. Her husband was Marcus Webb, heir to a pharmaceutical fortune. The ceremony had cost an estimated $500,000. In every photo, she looked radiantly happy. I looked at those images and felt something cold and hard settle in my chest. Not just anger. Purpose. I bought a plane ticket to New York. Quit my job. I had about $15,000 in savings. It would have to be enough. Before I left Berlin, I went to the American embassy, explained that there had been a terrible mistake, that I was very much alive. The official looked at me like I was insane, but after I showed identification, they agreed to investigate. I landed at JFK on a Tuesday morning, checked into a cheap hotel in Queens. Then I started making calls. I needed a lawyer who specialized in fraud, identity theft, probate disputes. I found Lucian Thorne through an online search. His firm was small but had a reputation for taking on powerful opponents. His office was in Midtown. Lucian himself was younger than I expected, maybe mid-30s, with dark hair and sharp eyes. You want to sue your family for killing you off, he said slowly. For fraud, for forging documents, for stealing my inheritance. He examined my identification carefully, then pulled up something on his computer, turned the screen toward me. My obituary. According to public records, Billy Deckwood died 6 months ago in Berlin. There's a death certificate. Your estate has been through probate. Legally speaking, you don't exist. But I'm sitting right here, I said. He smiled slightly. Which makes this possibly the most interesting case I've seen all year. Tell me everything. I did. I told him about the embezzlement, being disowned, the years of silence, the video of my funeral, the trust fund transfer. I showed him everything Sam had sent me. Lucian listened, taking notes. This is complicated, he finally said. Your family has resources. They'll fight back hard. But if you're telling the truth, and I think you are, then what they did is so beyond the pale that someone needs to hold them accountable. He leaned forward. I'll take this on contingency. You don't pay unless we win. When we win, I get 30% of whatever we recover, and I promise you, I will fight like hell for you. Relief washed over me. There's one more thing, I said. My family is having another memorial service for me this Sunday, at St. Albans Cathedral. He raised an eyebrow. And you want to attend your own memorial service? I want everyone there to know I'm alive. I want my parents and Elena to face me in front of all their friends. I want to blow their entire lie apart in the most public way possible. Lucian started to laugh. That's perfect. Dramatic as hell, but perfect. We spent the next 3 days preparing. Lucian filed emergency motions with the probate court, challenging the death certificate. He contacted the German embassy, the American embassy, created a paper trail proving I was alive. Meanwhile, Sam fed me information about the memorial service. 200 guests. My parents had rented out the entire cathedral. Elena was listed as giving a eulogy. Sunday morning, I dressed carefully. Black suit, simple and elegant. Hair pulled back. Minimal makeup. Lucian met me outside the cathedral. Are you sure about this? Once you walk in there, there's no taking it back. I'm sure. I've never been more sure of anything. The service was scheduled to start at 11. We waited until 11:15, until we could hear my father's voice through the heavy wooden doors. I looked at Lucian. He nodded. I pushed open the doors. The sound echoed through the cathedral like a gunshot. Every head turned. The massive space fell silent except for my footsteps on the marble floor. Click. Click. The cathedral was elaborate. Flowers everywhere. candles flickering, stained glass windows casting colored light, and at the front was my coffin, closed, draped with flowers. Next to it, a large framed photo of me, smiling, already gone. My parents stood at the podium, my father frozen mid-sentence. My mother's hand flew to her chest. Someone gasped. Then another person. The sound rippled through the crowd. I walked down the center aisle. I saw my Aunt Rachel, her face going white. I saw Elena standing near the front, next to Marcus. Her fingers clutched pearls at her throat. I reached the front, stepped onto the platform, stood next to my own photograph and faced the congregation. The silence was absolute. "I heard there was a memorial service for me," I said. My voice carried clearly. "I thought I should attend, since I'm not actually dead." My mother made a sound between a gasp and a sob. She swayed. My father just stared at me like I was a ghost. I turned to face them directly. "You didn't just lose a daughter, you threw her away. Then you pretended she died so you could steal everything she had. But I'm not dead. I'm standing right here, and everyone in this room is about to learn exactly what you did." Elena stepped forward. "You can't be here. You're supposed to be." She stopped herself. "Supposed to be what, Elena? Dead?" I smiled coldly. "Sorry to disappoint you. People were pulling out phones, recording, taking photos. This would be all over social media within minutes." I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder, threw it at my father's feet. Papers scattered. "This is for you. Since you didn't want to look at it last time. It's all there. The forged death certificate, the fake will, the trust fund transfer that happened weeks after you buried an empty coffin. You didn't just steal my money. You tried to steal my entire existence." My father found his voice. "Billy, we were told, there was an accident. Don't lie to me." "Not anymore. Not here. You knew exactly what you were doing." I looked at the crowd. "I'm sorry you all came here to mourn me, but as you can see, I'm fine. Very much alive. What's dead is my relationship with the people who were supposed to love me." I walked back down the aisle. As I passed, Elena's voice rang out. "You always were dramatic, Billy. This is just another one of your stunts." I stopped, turned back. "If this is a stunt, then explain the death certificate. Explain the will I never wrote. Explain how you got my trust fund." "I'll wait." She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. My father put a hand on her arm, but it was too late. Everyone had heard. I walked out into the bright sunlight. Behind me, chaos erupted. Lucian fell into step beside me. "Well, that was quite an entrance. I'm just getting started," I told him. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. The video of my cathedral entrance went viral. Local news picked it up, then national news. Woman crashes own funeral. Daughter returns from the dead to expose family fraud. My parents hired expensive lawyers. Released a statement claiming they had acted in good faith. They made no attempt to contact me directly. Sam continued feeding me information. He found emails between my father and Elena, discussing the logistics of declaring me dead. Text messages between my mother and the probate lawyer. The most damning piece came from Aunt Rachel. She called me one night. "I need to talk to you. In person. There are things you should know. We met at a coffee shop in Brooklyn." She looked tired. She slid a USB drive across the table. "This is everything I've been keeping. I knew what they were doing was wrong. I tried to talk your mother out of it, but she wouldn't listen. So I saved copies." "Why?" I asked. "In case you came back." She paused. "I never believed you were really dead, Billy. Your mother was always jealous of you. You were smart and independent, and you didn't need her approval the way Elena did. It threatened her. So she helped erase me." Rachel nodded. "They convinced themselves they were protecting the family. Elena was in debt to bad people. Your father paid them off, but only after making a deal. Elena had to settle down, marry well, become respectable, and she had to be the sole heir. No competition from you. The USB drive contained everything. Emails planning the fake death. Contracts with people who forged the German death certificate, financial records showing payments to officials, a copy of the fake will with notes in my father's handwriting." Lucian filed amended complaints, added charges of conspiracy, fraud, identity theft, requested a criminal investigation. 3 months after I walked out of that cathedral, my parents and Elena were indicted. The trial was a media circus. Cameras packed the hallways. My parents arrived each day looking grim, surrounded by lawyers. Elena looked smaller somehow. Marcus had filed for divorce 2 weeks after the indictment. I sat in the courtroom every day. The prosecution laid out their case methodically, showed the forged documents, played recorded phone calls, brought in officials who had been bribed, read emails out loud. Elena tried to testify, to claim she hadn't known the death was faked. But the prosecutor showed text messages where she joked about me being gone. My parents tried to maintain dignity, but the evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for 6 hours, guilty on all counts. I watched my father's face as the verdict was read. He aged a decade in seconds. My mother wept. Elena stared straight ahead. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Elena got 5 years in federal prison. My father got 3. My mother got 2 years of house arrest. They were ordered to pay restitution of the full trust fund amount, plus damages. The total came to over $3 million. Their assets were frozen. The house went up for sale. My father's company forced him out. Their social standing evaporated. Friends stopped calling. Charity boards asked them to resign. They lost everything, just like they tried to make me lose everything. After the sentencing, Lucian and I stood on the courthouse steps. Reporters shouted questions. "I'm satisfied that justice was served," I said into the microphones. "No one should be able to erase another person for their own convenience." My family tried to bury me while I was still breathing, and they almost succeeded. But I'm still here, and I hope my story reminds people that you can survive anything, even your own funeral. The house was mine now, legally. The court had returned all assets to me as restitution. I went there once, walked through the empty rooms, my childhood home. I found myself in Elena's old room. Stripped bare now, I picked up a picture frame that had fallen behind the radiator. Old, from when we were kids, both of us at the beach, building a sandcastle together, smiling. Before everything got complicated, I wondered when it started, when my sister decided I was competition instead of family. When my parents decided one daughter was enough, I set the frame down and walked out, didn't take anything with me. A week later, I put the house on the market. I donated most of my restitution money. Set up a foundation for people who had been victims of family fraud, kept enough to live comfortably. Money had never been what I wanted anyway. I wanted acknowledgement, validation, the simple recognition that I mattered. I never got that from my parents. Even after the trial, they never apologized, never admitted they were wrong. In their minds, they were the victims. But I didn't need their acknowledgement anymore. I had found something better. Self-respect. The knowledge that I had stood up for myself, fought back, refused to disappear. Sam came to visit me in my new apartment in Brooklyn. Nothing fancy but clean and bright. "I'm proud of you," he said. "For not giving up, I almost did. There were times in Berlin when I thought about just staying gone. It would have been easier. But you didn't. You came back. You fought. I had to. Not just for me. For anyone else, they might have done this too." Jake reached out around that time. My ex-boyfriend from before everything fell apart. He sent a long email explaining that my father had threatened him. Told him to stay away or face consequences. He said he was sorry. I read the email 3 times. Part of me wanted to respond, but a stronger part remembered how alone I felt when everyone disappeared. I deleted the email. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. Lucian and I stayed in touch. He sent me cases sometimes, people who needed help fighting their own battles. I would review their situations, offer advice, contribute money from my foundation. It became a purpose, using what happened to me to help others. One afternoon, 6 months after the trial, I was working in a coffee shop when a young woman approached my table. "Excuse me, are you Billy Dekwa?" I tensed. "Yes, I just wanted to thank you. My family did something similar to me. I saw your story and it gave me courage to fight back. I won, and it's because of you." She left before I could respond. I sat there realizing my story wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to everyone who had ever been erased, dismissed, betrayed. It was worth it. All of it. I started giving talks. Small events at first, then larger conferences. Speaking about toxic relationships, about trusting yourself even when everyone says you're wrong. The audiences grew. I never planned to become a public figure, but there was something powerful about standing in front of a room and saying out loud what had happened, about refusing to be ashamed. My parents were released from prison after serving most of their sentences. They moved to a small town upstate, quiet, anonymous. Elena got out a few months later. She was required to stay in a halfway house, attend therapy, find work. I heard she was working as a receptionist somewhere. Part of me wondered if she ever regretted it. But I didn't reach out. Some relationships are too broken to fix. Rachel was the only family member I stayed in contact with. She called every few weeks, always apologetic. "I don't blame you," I told her once. "You were scared. But you stood up for me when it mattered most. That counts for something." A year after the trial, I was offered a book deal. A publisher wanted me to write about my experience. I hesitated. Reliving every moment felt daunting, but I kept going. The book became a bestseller. Not because it was particularly well written, but because the story resonated. So many people had experienced some version of what I went through. I started dating again. Met someone at a book signing. Daniel, he was a therapist who understood boundaries. Our first date was coffee. Our second was dinner. Our third was a long walk through Central Park where I found myself telling him things I hadn't planned to share. "I'm damaged goods," I told him. "Fair warning." He smiled. "We're all damaged." The question is whether you're working on healing or letting the damage define you. I'm working on healing, I said. It's slow, but I'm trying. That's all any of us can do. 2 years after the trial, I sold my foundation to a larger nonprofit, started a consulting business, helping companies with fraud prevention and family business succession planning. The business grew quickly. My parents never reached out, not once. I heard they were living quietly, small, diminished. Sometimes I drove past the old house. The new owners had painted it a different color, added a pool. It looked happy now. The hardest thing about moving forward was letting go of anger. I had carried it for so long. Without it, I felt untethered. Therapy helped. I resisted at first. But Daniel gently pushed me, pointed out that being unwilling to get help because of pride was just another form of letting my family control me. So I went. Talked to Dr. Chen, who had an office filled with plants. She didn't try to make me forgive my family. Instead, she helped me understand the patterns that made me vulnerable. You believed you had to earn love, she told me once. That's why the betrayal hurt so much. But their inability to see you was never about your worth. It was about their limitations. That clicked something into place. I had spent years thinking I failed somehow. But the problem was never me. It was them. Understanding that didn't erase the pain, but it changed the shape of it. 3 years post-trial, on the anniversary of walking into that cathedral, I organized a small gathering. Sam came. Daniel came. Lucian came. Rachel flew up from Florida. I want to say something, I told them. They raised their glasses. 3 years ago, I walked into a church and crashed my own funeral. It was the scariest thing I had ever done. I just knew I couldn't stay buried. I looked around at the people gathered. You all helped me climb out of that grave. You reminded me I was worth fighting for. I'm grateful. For all of it. Because they led me here. To this life. To you all. To myself. Later that night, after everyone left, Daniel and I stood on my balcony. The city sparkled below us. Do you ever wish it didn't happen? He asked. That you could go back to before. I thought about it. Really considered it. No, I wouldn't go back. That version of me was living a lie. She thought she was happy, but she was just compliant. This me, the one who fought back, who survived, who built something real. This is who I was supposed to become. He kissed my forehead. I'm glad you found your way here. Me too. And I meant it. The story could end there. But life doesn't work that way. There were still hard days. Days when I woke up angry. Days when I doubted everything. But those days became less frequent. The good days outnumbered them. I built a life I was proud of. Not the life I planned, but something better. Something mine. I never spoke to my parents again. Never saw Elena. That chapter was closed. Sometimes people asked if I would ever consider reconciliation. The answer was always no. Forgiveness is complicated. I forgave them for my sake, not theirs. Released the poison of hatred because it was hurting me. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It just means refusing to let them continue damaging you from a distance. I was free, finally, completely. Not because I had gotten revenge, though I had. Not because justice was served, though it was, but because I had taken back my story, my name, my life. They tried to bury me, but I wasn't dirt. I was a seed. And when I broke through the surface, I grew into something they never expected, something they could never control. I grew into myself. On quiet evenings, I sometimes think about the girl in Berlin. The one who dropped her coffee cup and watched her own funeral. I wish I could tell her it would be okay. That she was stronger than she knew. But she figured it out on her own. Found the strength buried beneath the fear. Chose to rise instead of stay down. That's the thing about being buried alive. You have 2 choices. Accept the darkness, or claw your way back to the light. I chose the light. Every single day, I choose the light. And I will never let anyone bury me again.